Okay, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, nobility, esteemed guests, and everyone in between. I'm Lloyd Bryant, the National Representative of Technology and Development in Glamorgannwg Indigenous people. I've been programming since I was a teenager. I've been involved in the development of blockchain-related technologies and cryptocurrencies for the last few years. Today I'm going to share how these technologies could be used in micronationalism. I'll start by giving a brief introduction to blockchain, wallets and cryptocurrency technologies before explaining their potential, relevance and uses. For those who understand the technology already, please understand I'm purposely choosing to use simple terms and descriptions, and this may sometimes be at the expense of technical accuracy. If anyone's ever had any experience with blockchain or cryptocurrency, if I could just have a little show of hands. So not many, so just a few. That's great. So forgive my simplicity in parts. And obviously this is due to the limited time I have. I've got to make it as simple and understandable for as many as possible, regardless of their previous knowledge. So first of all, what is blockchain? We'll have a look at what blockchain it is. It's an innovative technology providing a record that is resistant to tampering and censorship. The data that's stored on the blockchain is duplicated across a distributed set of computers around the world, and this is known as decentralization. The key information is permanently recorded using transactions, each built upon the previous transaction, and this is what creates the chain. And the transactions themselves and the blocks are referenced by what is known as hashes or hash signatures. They're a bit like a fingerprint that uniquely identifies some specific data. This is a brief overview of the blockchain process. First, a user creates or requests a transaction. A block is created that includes that transaction. This is then broadcast to the network, and the nodes or servers of the network then verify the data, and once verified, the block is added into the chain, and the transaction at that point has been authorized and entered into the blockchain. These are a very simplified description of the steps involved, but users, when using blockchain, will typically be using the wallet app, and the app takes care of all of this for you. It's usually just clicking a comment and an amount or something. Okay, hopefully you can just about see that. I want to illustrate the key point of this because I draw upon this later, and this is how the blocks of a blockchain work and how they reference the previous blocks. So here's a simplified example to demonstrate this. So in the top box we have a hello with a capital H. This is in block 1. And the hash 1 underneath is generated as a reference from that data. So now I've added some data, Microcon, in block 2. And as you can hopefully see, well, I'll just flick back. So if you look at hash 2 a second, it begins with a 52, and then hash 1 begins with 185. Now in this one, obviously the 185 is still there, but now I've entered data into block 2. That will create a new hash, and now that includes the data in block 2. So hash 2 is derived from hash 1 and block 2. Just to show that process. But here is a key point about blockchain that I wish to illustrate. If anyone was to try to provide different data for block 1, and here I show a lowercase h instead of a capital H, even though it's very, very similar data, the hash 1 value changes completely. And as a result, hash 2 and all subsequent hashes will also change. So I'll just click back again. So there's the capital H. And with the lowercase h, even though it's the same word, it's actually, the data is different. So as a result, hash 2 and all subsequent hashes would also change. The change can be as small as you like, a single bit in millions of bytes of data. You only get the correct hash from the original identical data. It's a very important point of blockchain. And so therefore, this is how blockchains are unchangeable. Once the blocks are finalized, no previous blocks can be changed without affecting the entire chain from that point onwards. Because if other hashes all change, they would then fail to be verified. In other words, anything committed to the blockchain remains a permanent, unchangeable record. And just to visually show the difference between centralized and decentralized, blockchains are stored on a network, and this is a visual representation of two types of network. A centralized has a single point of authority, and all servers, which are also called nodes, are connected to this. That's the white one on the left. The decentralized network has all nodes interconnected, but with no central point of authority. So all those white points on the right, they're all storing the same data, and you can contact any one of them, and they all keep themselves synchronized. The key feature of blockchain technology is that it is stored on a decentralized network to avoid the single points of centralization that could be subject to both control and vulnerability. Obviously, you could have failure when it's a single point. So now I'll move on to cryptocurrency and wallets. So we'll have a little look at that. First of all, what is a cryptocurrency? It's a digital form of currency where there are many, just like with the currency that we are all used to. At a simple level, it lists of transactions between wallets on a blockchain. The wallets are controlled by their users, which is the important part, and we'll look at that in a moment. Despite bad press, cryptocurrency wallet technology itself has actually proven incredibly reliable and secure. Oh, that's right, still on this one. Cryptocurrencies all allow sending and receiving of assets between users via wallets. And some have additional features built in beyond the scope of this talk, and is actually one of my areas of expertise. We're sticking to the basics. So what is a wallet? So again, on a basic level, wallets are similar to a digital bank account where users have separate folders for each currency they hold. You could think of them as virtual wallets with different pockets. They are controlled by their users, and many transactions that are performed will need to be authorized by that user. Typically, a wallet will be an app on a smartphone, but can also be on a computer or a USB device that plugs into your computer. As I said, it's thought to be highly secure and unhackable. There's hundreds of billions of dollars worth of cryptocurrency, and to my knowledge, they haven't been hacked. The wallets themselves haven't been hacked. They're created by a private seed phrase, which is usually 12 or 24 words depending on the wallet or app used. The seed phrase is held by the user who has sole responsibility and ultimate control of it. Even the user cannot recover their wallet if they lose their own seed phrase. The seed phrase is not required for daily use, as your wallet would generally be accessed by an app or a password code, but is needed. The seed phrase is needed if you wanted to access your wallet on a different device or when you need it for the first time. And that process is called recovering your wallet. So this is how wallets work under the hood. Each wallet contains a private and a public key. The private key always remains private, and the wallet uses this to sign transactions, a bit like signing a check. The public key can be freely shared, as it can only be used to verify already signed transactions, and it cannot be used to create such a signature. So as shown in the image, Alex on the left keeps his key private and signs transactions, but John, shown on the right, who has access to the public key, could actually be anybody at all who wants to verify that transaction or even the nodes of the blockchain itself. So just to address the distrust that was mentioned already. So you may have heard bad things about cryptocurrencies, but these really relate to the core technology itself. Some bad press is due to scams, of which there's too many really to mention. Just be vigilant, be careful. Failed exchanges, such as FTX, but these are called centralized exchanges. Vulnerability exploits, which are usually due to flaws in the actual software running the blockchain. Meme coin and NFT hype usually cause large fluctuations in value, so that can be perceived as negative. Centralized exchanges, like I say, being hacked, that was an example with FTX. But there's also confusion with central bank digital currency, or CBDC. It's also often confused as cryptocurrency by many people who often don't still understand that technology. In reality, I would say CBDC and crypto are not the same at all. And the prime difference is that central bank digital currency is, as it describes, centralized concept. In fact, wallets are very secure when used with care on respected decentralized exchanges, and this can be an excellent way to secure any wealth, assets or data where it can only be accessed by you, not governments, authorities or anyone else who has access to your wallet, unless they have access to your wallet, which you won't give them. Therefore, I believe it can be very secure and empowering when used for specific purposes. And just to reiterate that, on the left, this is regarding exchanges. With centralized exchanges, as with networks, we have the central point of control and potential failure. So the idea of the centralized CBDC gives all the power to that centralized authority exchanges. Your wallets, all data can be accessed by any node, and you interact with any node, and the transactions are controlled by the user wallets with no overarching control or single point of failure like the centralized model has. So, whereas there is a lot of speculative disinformation that creates distrust of cryptocurrency, it is in fact a trustless system. And this means there is no dependence on a third party such as a corporation or jurisdiction. An example of a bank, these are actually just intermediaries for storing wealth. And this is known as a trust-based system because the users need to trust the bank to give them their money when they request it. This is how centralized exchanges also work. In trustless systems, you hold the keys to your wallet so that you're in control and there is no third party, and this is, again, how decentralized exchanges work. So now I've gone over the basics. I'll now look at some ideas of how blockchain technology can be used in your micronation for data and record keeping first. Currency and economic development, and then for forming alliances with other micronations. So here are some key features of the technology and how it can offer efficient data and record keeping functionality. The technology offers a unique identity, that's by virtue of the wallet, gives you a unique identity and presence which can be utilized to allow the creation and sharing of information by authorized micronation personnel, which ensures citizens that the information is officially endorsed by your micronation and prevents the sharing of misinformation by others. And obviously with the blockchain, it prevents the tampering of any information. The censorship resistance means that data is not subject to an external censorship or answerable to an authority outside your micronation. As an example, this will help provide accurate historical data and prevent the alteration of history, as we have seen with cancel culture. Offering a private and secure files with encryption is another possible feature of blockchain technology, and that isn't my area of expertise. And this could be utilized for sharing unreleased and official documentation for authorized access only. Permanent storage with timestamps, which is a standard feature of blockchain technology, can also be useful for things like supply chain management. So, another maybe more obvious or exciting possibility of how you can use these technologies is by launching your own micronation cryptocurrency token for use by your citizens. I put together some tips on this because it is quick and cheap to launch a cryptocurrency token, but for it to be taken seriously, it needs to be treated with the same integrity as if you were going to launch your own paper currency. This is because there are so many failed cryptocurrency projects to date, and its failure could have a detrimental effect on your micronation's reputation. In my opinion, one of the most important aspects to consider is the need for an underlying asset, as without any asset to back it up, cryptocurrency can be extremely volatile and subject to a high level of failure. Assets can be anything at all, really, but for Bitcoin and Ethereum, which were early cryptocurrencies, they're backed more on the technology and the networks themselves. There are other cryptocurrencies backed on their assets, and those can be backed on more stable, tangible assets such as fiat currency and, say, gold, and these are known as stable coins. Stable because they tend to remain stable, and they're obviously less likely to be volatile. It's for this reason that I believe that stable coins are the most suited for a micronation cryptocurrency. In Glamorgannwg, we're planning to launch our own cryptocurrency, but before we do so, we're making many preparations. We're establishing ongoing trade between citizens in our regular community markets, and that itself will be an asset and create value to any currency that is eventually launched, as it will be regularly used. We are teaching our citizens to use existing cryptocurrencies, and this is to increase their confidence and familiarity with the technology. And we are building up our assets in order to back the currency, and that is equipment, eventually land, gold, and money in the bank. And by doing all of this, we're ensuring our future currency is launched on a solid foundation, and this will maximise its potential for success. So launching your own cryptocurrency is a fairly obvious use of this technology, but I'd like to present a prototype of another project that use of this technology that we're involved in helping to develop. The Fellowship of Indigenous Peoples is a network of micronations and individuals offering a connection and resources, and we are developing this project in collaboration with another micronation, Micronationalism, based in England, who sadly couldn't attend Microcon this time. The project utilises some of the principles I've already presented. I think it's an entirely new concept which is modelled on the ideas of blockchain, but also open source technology, and utilises these technologies. The open sourcing of documents and everything that is needed will encourage and empower others to create their own micronations. We're actually doing this all ourselves to create a protocol and successful templates for others to follow. The Fellowship of Indigenous Peoples allows both micronations and sovereign individuals to align with and recognise each other, with alignments and agreements being sealed using the security of decentralised blockchain technology. At Glamorgannwg, we are currently collecting public signatures on a statement of recognition, which is a type of petition to declare their recognition of our micronation. We are developing a system to enable this to also be done via the blockchain technology. The idea is, on the FIP model, is by using the decentralized network, there will be no governance, and therefore there is no approval process to join. Initially, people may only need to align with 2 others in the network to act as endorsement and to enable them to be part of it. So, the blockchain technology is used with a standard transaction template, which permanently and instantly records any of these declarations, such as alignments with other micronations, details about the micronations themselves, constitutions or law documents, memorandums of understandings, but of course it could also include revocations of any of these. So if something was put on the blockchain, you can post a retraction later and it will all be on the blockchain. And even expressions of private or community trusts, if you used to use these in your micronation. So this is, as it says, still work in progress. But we're developing the interface that users can interact with, but from within the safety of their micronation wallets. This screen shows some test transactions that have been committed to the blockchain, showing relationships generated between our micronations that have done so between us so far. And this is just an example of how one of those individual transactions look like when it's shown on a typical blockchain. If anyone wants to see this later, I can show them on my phone or something. Sorry if it's not that clear. And this is a more visual representation showing the relationships between the micronations, which is actually created automatically by the data held in the transactions on the blockchain. So eventually, someone may be able to just have this visually displayed on their website with like a WordPress plugin or something. So because it's going to get all the data off the blockchain, so that's the idea eventually. So regarding the Fellowship of Indigenous Peoples and the potential for incorporating cryptocurrencies into our micronations, we're very happy to brainstorm and collaborate with any others who might also be interested in these concepts. So if any of this inspires you, please don't hesitate to get in touch. If anyone's got any questions, probably best to come and chat to us in the break when we'll have a chance to discuss. And I just want to thank everyone and Nicholas and Ivan for this opportunity to share our thoughts and my expertise in our first Microcon conference. Thank you very much.